Here, my name is Matt Ayers. I am the Quote It training specialist here. I've also got one of our Quote It software consultants who's going to be on our call as well, just in the event that there's some questions. And any of you that would like to stick around after the webinar, there is going to be a quick demonstration just of the Quote It platform kind of as a whole, that real 30,000 foot view. So definitely want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. I was looking at the calendar. We've got 75 days to AEP and 92 days to OEP. So it always feels like it's so far away, but boy, oh boy, it's definitely coming right up on it here. So without further ado, we're going to kind of jump into the webinar. So for those of you that don't know what a CRM is, that's predominantly what we're going to tackle here, and why basically it's going to do you a little bit more justice for your customers than maybe just a spreadsheet or kind of a Rolodex sort of format. So, in this day and age, we're all attached to our phones 24/7. So let's take, for example, a call just comes in on your cell phone, and all of a sudden you answer it, and it's, lo and behold, a prospect who has been referred over to you. Existing customer was so happy with what you do that they sent over a friend and said, hey, look, you know what? You have to go talk to Mr. or Mrs. Insurance Broker because they really helped me out. And so through that conversation now, you've gotten the hold of their name, their phone number, their email address, and you went ahead and you sent an appointment for tomorrow afternoon at 2 because they just want to discuss in a little bit more detail maybe how you can help them or what you can bring to the table. Now, my major question is, what did you do with all that information? Are we taking and putting these notes into a phone? Is it going into Excel? Is there an Outlook spreadsheet or something like that you have? Or are you just doing I play the memory game or put it on Post-it notes? There's a lot of different ways to track this information. So the question again is where are you kind of storing this information? So now, we fast forward maybe 10 or 15 minutes. We got everything that we needed from our referral, and the phone rings again. And this time around, we've got a call from an existing Medicare customer, and they just have a quick question on their policy, which in turn leads to a conversation you had a few weeks ago. And it's essentially that they wanted to look at a dental plan. It was quoted a couple of months ago, and now they're finally ready to move forward. So here we have the opportunity to take one of our existing customers and add another policy to our book of business. So the major question here is, while you've got that customer on the phone, how essentially are you going to find that information? Is it something where, again, you have to go into an Excel spreadsheet? Is it a paper file that's back at the office? Honestly, is this something that you can do on the fly? Well, maybe you're dropping the kids off at soccer practice or coming back from a meeting or things of that nature. And that's honestly where the CRM or customer relationship management system comes into play. It basically allows you to cater to your customers and build the relationship that leads to referrals, that leads to additional sales, that leads to, just you basically being their broker from front to back. We're going to change gears a little bit. Anybody who has kind of half been paying attention, you're probably wondering why there's a stack of Campbell's soup cans in front of you, but I promise you're still on the right webinar. This is the Quote It CRM webinar. Basically, where we're talking about here is canned goods were originally created right around 1804, 1805. There's a little debate, but early 1800s. And at that point in time, the preferred method to open them was, believe it or not, a hammer and chisel. There had not yet been a can opener opened. So we fast forward from 1804, 1805, all the way out now to 1858. And a gentleman by the name of Ezra J. Warner actually patented the first can opener as we know it. Now, as somebody who has worked in the sales industry, I understand what it's like when you've got a new product. It's really fun. You want to go out and tell everybody about it. And I just kind of chuckle a little bit because I can only imagine that as Ezra was going door to door and telling everybody about this great new product that he had, doors just kept getting slammed in his face. And the reason I think that doors probably got slammed in his face is everybody he met essentially said, hey, we've already got a way to open our cans. Even though this was a much, much better solution, they'd kind of dug their heels in, and this is just how they were used to doing it for the last 50 years. And, that's probably how a few of those folks were going to continue to do it for the next 50 years regardless. Now, this story kind of comes into play because I honestly felt like Ezra for a while. I was a quoted sales consultant. I was calling and talking to agents, and I'd kind of show them what we had to offer, or give them a little snippet of maybe how we could help. And, over and over and over, I just kept getting told, hey, you know what, we've got a way that we do that, and we're comfortable with the way that we do it. And the question or the rebuttal, I should say, that I got more often than not was the question, why do I need a CRM when I can just store all this information into a spreadsheet? And it's kind of a valid question. Spreadsheet does a great job of storing data and holding data. But let's stop and take a second and think about all the information that we're gathering from our customers and clients, right? We're going to get a name. We're definitely going to get a date of birth. We're definitely going to get an address and a few things like that. And this is probably just kind of scratching the surface. But at the end of the day, we're getting a lot of sensitive information from our clients. And you've probably been doing this a long time. So now let's multiply this by 100 or 500 or 1,000. So all of these different sensitive pieces of information that you've got. Again, where is all this information being stored? And that really is the question. So again, are you storing it in an Excel spreadsheet? Are you a paper file person? Outlook, is that kind of where you're storing things? Or are you using multiple different services? So now you kind of have to go from point A to point B to accomplish a simple task or a simple goal. Most importantly, is it secure? Where is it being stored? Is there an encryption device that's set up? Is it available on a single device, or can you get a hold of this wherever you're at? Is it a situation where we talked earlier, your customer calls in and has a question on their Medicare policy? Is that something that you can answer right there on the phone, or is that something where you maybe are going to have to schedule a call back and tackle that later in the afternoon or tomorrow, things like that? And then lastly, is your storage method compliant? Right? If push comes to shove and you have to start answering some questions, the way that you're storing information, is it compliant? And sadly, spreadsheets do a great job, again, of storing data, but they do have their limitations. And again, like we talked about, their initial design was to store data, and they do a great job at it. It's great at storing kind of static data, but ultimately they weren't designed to handle client relationships with considerations to an insurance business. Again, we've went through several things that you're going to need for each client, and really, again, to store all that in a spreadsheet and try to see it on one page is going to be just a little bit more difficult. And here, ultimately, now we're going to talk about maybe where a CRM is really going to set itself apart from just mere data storage. So again, up until this point, we've kind of talked about the fact that a CRM is going to do a great job. It's going to keep you organized. It's going to keep information at your fingertips. But maybe that's not enough to move the needle. Maybe that sounds great from an organizational perspective, but it really doesn't do enough to justify maybe an additional cost. So the first thing a CRM is going to do for you that a spreadsheet and other things can't is it's going to set up some automation for you. It's going to automate some of your tedious tasks that just are going to make your life a little bit easier and allow you to kind of spend the day doing what you do best, which is ultimately selling insurance. A CRM is going to assist in your cross-selling efforts. It's going to allow you now to take that one customer who maybe purchased a major medical policy and sell them, in addition to that, a dental and a vision, or a critical illness, or the Medicare person, again, selling them final expense or a dental policy or something along those lines. So again, the idea behind this is you can expand your book of business without really having to go out and capture a whole lot more clients. Retention. Oh boy, I think retention is the singular biggest one, because I don't have to tell you folks how difficult it is to go find a new customer. And once you find them, once you get them, you definitely want to hold on to them, because your attrition rate year after year, it's again easier to hold on to a customer than it is to go find a new one. And then lastly, marketing. Ultimately, the best way to run any business is to have the phone ring to you, and all of a sudden now you've got a live customer on the other end that knows a little bit about you, that knows a little bit about what you do, and maybe they just have some finer, detailed questions, as opposed to going out and maybe asking people specifically if they're looking for insurance. So the first one we're going to tackle is automation. The great thing about automation is you can actually work and have it integrate to your CRM. So let's take, the example where maybe there's a form that's on your website for folks to ask hey, if you're interested in Medicare information, fill out this form, and myself or a member of my agency will reach out to you. So with the CRM, you can actually have that information when a customer fills that form out on the website, get pushed right into your customer relationship management database. And ultimately, there's no double entry. That's the single best feature to that. And regardless of what the scenario is, after they fill that form out, you have another customer that you can effectively market to year after year, even if they decide not to sign up with you right then and there. In a couple of scenarios, after they go ahead and fill out that form, your CRM can be automated to now send an automatic thank you email. So whether it's 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, somebody goes to your website, they start looking around, they fill out some information. All that information is now into your CRM. They also get a follow-up email that is thanking them for taking the time. So it's just a lot more personal experience. And most importantly, this is going to happen 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You set it once, and essentially it's just going to run like that to eternity. Cross-selling. So again, we talk about this, the idea of basically selling new products to your existing book of business. So now you can expand your overall market base without necessarily needing to go out and track down a whole bunch of clients. With cross-selling, the nice thing too is you can now sort your customers into categories the way that you can't maybe with an Excel spreadsheet. So if you want to sort customers by age, by date of birth, by how long they've been in your book, all that sort of stuff, you can now go in and start to tell it what you want and have it return some pretty targeted information. So let's take a real world example, because I seem to work best with real world examples. So, let's say you just got appointed with Mutual of Omaha, and you really, really like their final expense plan. And maybe you haven't sold final expense before. This is kind of a new endeavor for you. And all of a sudden, your 500 clients or 1,000 clients or 2,000 clients, there's going to be a number of them that are going to be really eligible for this plan, and it's going to work really well for them. So furthermore, now Mutual of Omaha has told you that the ideal client is somewhere between the age of 56 to 69, and they already have an ACA or a Medicare plan. So with a really good CRM, you can now go in and you can target this specific demographic, and you can start to reach out to them, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email campaign. If you're somebody who still likes to send out mailers, you can do that. And again, all of this can be tracked back through your CRM. Retention. Again, I talked to a handful of different managers and insurance salespeople, and they told me without a doubt the number one place that they lose customers in retention is when people move. We get hectic. Our lives become boxes and U-Haul trucks or whatever it might be. And all of a sudden we get moved to a new place and we find out that we need a different insurance plan. Well, in talking to two different managers, I was told by both of them that the practice most customers have is what they're going to do is they're just going to reach out to their carrier and try to get the plan changed over. Maybe it's been a while since they've talked to you. They don't really have a way to reach back out to you directly. Maybe they don't realize that you have the kind of insurance agency that can help them in a different state or a different county or a different city altogether. So again, according to movinglabor.com, it's estimated that roughly 40 million people move year in and year out. Now, the kicker of that is 80% of these moves occur from April to September. As somebody who grew up in the Midwest, I can tell you wholeheartedly, I do not want to move in November and December. So these numbers don't surprise me a whole heck of a lot. But what if you could reach out to all those customers before they move? So in other words, before their life becomes boxes, before it becomes U-Haul trucks, before it becomes trying to get schools changed over and all that sort of stuff, you could have a really in-depth conversation with them and say, hey, look, you know what? It looks like because you're moving, we're going to have to change plans. Well, with a CRM, what you can do is you can go ahead and automate emails to go out every month if you want to. So you can start sending them out. Maybe April 5th is a day you like. And so now every month on the 5th from April to September, you're going to send an email to your entire book of business and say, hey, look, if you're moving, feel free to reach out. Let's look and see if there's any other options for you and make sure that we have all of this taken care of. Let me take this off your plate for you so that all you have to worry about is getting into your new place. And let's be honest, that repositions yourself, and now you're in front of that customer again, and you can potentially sell them additional products. See previous slide, jokingly. Marketing. Marketing is a big part, I believe, of any successful business. Essentially with a CRM, you do a quick little 10-minute investment into a marketing campaign, and you can reach a bunch of customers in a given given area or a given age demographic. So, for example, if you're one of these agents that does both, which I talk to a number of them who do both ACA or Obamacare and they do Medicare, what are you doing with those customers who are aging into Medicare? How are you reaching out to them and letting them know that, hey, you don't have to go somewhere else. I can kind of guide you through this journey. More importantly, your spouse isn't going to be in Medicare age the same year you are, so we can actually treat and help you both at the same time. Well, with a great CRM, you can now go about sorting your entire book of business by age. You can find out who's going to turn 65 in the next 3 months and start reaching out to them and make sure again that you've kind of held their hand through maybe the tedious part. Now that we get to the part that's really kind of the payoff, we can keep that customer and not have to go out and find more of them. New carrier appointments. When I sold with Quoted, that was one of the most exciting things that happened. Is all of a sudden we'd see an email pop up that there's new dental carriers or there's new vision carriers that are available in a particular area, or maybe they're just available through Quoted for one of the first times. And for this, again, we're going to use a real world, real life example. So this year, Molina is now going to expand into 2 new states, which means there's 78 new counties that Molina can be sold in. So again, imagine trying to reach out one by one to your customers or mentioning this to them all as you have these interactions over the next 3 months or 4 months. Instead of that, imagine being able to set up a staged email that's going to go out to your customers, and it can just have a really simple message. Something like, hey, let's set up a brief call to see if this new carrier might be a better option for comprehensive health insurance. I promise you, at the very least, what you've done is you've gained a customer for life, because everybody likes to know that they've got the best plan that they could possibly get for the best value. So by being, a little bit more get out in front of it, I guess I should say, all of a sudden now your customers just feel they just feel a little bit more nurtured, like somebody kind of is guiding them through the journey, not just looking at them as kind of a payday. And then we come back to the age old, there's only so many hours in a day. Honestly, there's only one you, and eventually, I don't care who you are, you do need to get some sleep. And so again, this is just that basic conversation that you can put so many hours in, but there's only so many hours in a day. So when you reach your absolute tipping point, hey, I'm working 12 or 13 hours a day, you cannot increase your input anymore at that point in time. So that's where you really need to kind of shift gears and look for something to help, so that all of a sudden, you can shorten some of these processes, you can automate some of these processes, and you can free up and just find more hours in your day. And ultimately, that's what a CRM is going to let you do. It's almost like you can clone yourself. So now a lot of those tedious tasks that you don't want to spend time with, again, creating an email once, and it's going to be in that template forever. You choose that you want to send that out, away we go. It's going to automate a lot of those processes, and again, just free up some of your time. Agencies. I talk to a lot of agents, and I would say that probably 80% of them, their number one objective is they wanted to get to a place where they were an agency owner. I'm going to go out and I'm going to start my book of business. When I get to 1,000 clients, that's when I'm going to look at bringing on my first agent to work underneath me. And eventually, I want to be an agency that's got, in this example, we've got 4 agents. But, I talked to some people who they were really, really ambitious, and they wanted to go out and they wanted to have 10, 20, or even 50 agents working underneath them. Well, with a great CRM as an agency owner, you now have a lot of visibility into the agency and how things are running. So you can assign or reassign leads to your individual agents. So, let's say that again, in this example, we've got 4 agents. It's Monday morning. It's the first week of OEP. And, each one of these agents is essentially assigned 10 leads. You can, by Wednesday, look and see who's worked these leads, how often they've been worked, how many proposals have been sent out. You can see how many policies have been created out of them. And then more importantly, as you're looking at the productivity of your agents, you can go ahead and reassign these various leads to the agents that are really putting in the work. So again, you can move things around. You can get the right agents, or the ones that seem to be kind of going out there and really wanting to kill it and bring it back home, as they say. You can keep feeding them. More importantly, let's take a look at the other side of the coin. So now maybe you have an agent who's looking to go out on their own. They decide they're going to make the jump, and I no longer want to work for an agency. I want to go out and I want to maybe start my own. You can take away some of their rights. So maybe you're an agency where, hey, you know what? Any customer or client that you bring in is effectively going to stay with the agency when you leave. So you can turn off the ability to export your clients. So you don't have to worry about, again, you have an agent leave, they're going to take the 250 or 300 clients that they brought in with them. You can kind of prevent a lot of that stuff. Which brings us now kind of to the payoff, right? Everything is great. Automating things is nice, but what's in it for me at the end of the day? Well, there was a study done that showed it does give you a correlation in increase to revenue. For every dollar that's spent, there's an $8.71 return on investment. And another thing that it's going to do in a big way is it's going to shorten your sales cycle. So, I mean, again, we all have those customers that maybe we reach back and forth to 5, 6 times to get them signed up just because they have questions. Well, imagine being able to take that 5 or 6 call close and shorten it to a 2 or 3 call close, simply because you can get them all the information that they need for the first conversation and then let them kind of marinate on it over the weekend. Well, ultimately, what this is going to do is just going to give you more time to do what you want to do. Maybe, with that extra time, you're going to go ahead and you're going to go on vacation. So we got through, AEP, OEP, you're somewhere on the beach with some fruity cocktail that's got an umbrella in it, and all of a sudden you get an email that says somebody that you sold a policy to now turned around and bought a dental policy. So again, just by automating some of these processes, even when you're not in the office or not actively working, you can still set it up to become a passive income, a passive money maker. And all of these things are essentially what a great CRM is going to allow you to do. I did want to point out there are a few questions that have come in. Essentially, we will answer all of those at the end. I apologize for not making note of that at the beginning. But that kind of brings us to our bottom line here. So with the CRM, you're more organized. You can essentially service your clients faster. The example we used in the very beginning, somebody just calls up and has a question without, scheduling a call back for later this afternoon, for tomorrow. I can just put them on hold for 30 seconds to a minute, answer their questions. And with that same person that wanted to enroll in a dental policy, maybe now all of a sudden a 5-minute conversation answered the question and got them enrolled in another policy. The information is secure and compliant. I can't imagine a situation where I'd want to reach out to a book of business of maybe 500 or 1,000 clients and have to disclose to them that, hey, I'm really sorry. The way that I had your information stored, it got compromised, and I really want you to check with, the credit bureaus and make sure that nothing is going on behind the scenes. And then lastly, it's just going to add more hours to your day. And again, however you decide to spend those hours is completely up to you. Maybe you're the type of agent that I want to reinvest that back into my business, and that's fantastic. Maybe you're the type of agent that the reason you got into this industry is because you like the flexibility. So now all of a sudden, hey, you know what? You can go to a few more of those soccer games or softball games, or maybe that correlates to going and just doing other things in the evening. Whatever it might be, these are all reasons that a CRM is going to help you dramatically. If there's any questions directly for Quote It, I've got the number and the email address here. The web address and phone number. I apologize. What we're going to do now is, again, I thank all of you for your time today. Hopefully you picked up a few things that's going to help you moving down the road. What I'm going to do at this time actually is I'm going to hand it over to Ken Banfill, who is one of our Quote It sales consultants. He's been here quite a while. He's been here 9 years. And as a special offer today, anybody who wants to schedule a demo and talk to one of our consultants, we're going to waive all the setup fees for you. So depending on what package you choose, that can be a savings anywhere of $250 to $600. So it really is a very, very attractive deal. And like I touched on at the very beginning of this call, we're 75 days away from AEP and 92 days away from OEP. So it's definitely the time to start thinking about, how I can make this the best season I've had. And without further ado, I am going to go ahead and now bring Ken onto the line, and he's going to walk us through just a real kind of brief overview of what the Quote It platform can do, understanding that if you want to take a closer look at it, we'll definitely be able to schedule some time with one of our consultants.
Beautiful. Thank you, Matt. And you guys, thank you, everybody, for showing up. Give me just a second to share my screen here. Give me a second. All right, you guys, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I wasn't too sure which screen I was sharing here. So, Matt, can you see my screen? Man, I'm sorry. I'm having a little issue here. All right, you guys, thank you for your patience. I apologize about that. So one thing about Quota in our CRM system, first and foremost, what I'd like to say is you can actually import and export all your clients through an Excel spreadsheet. So if you already have a big book of business, you can actually easily import it into your Quoted account. But when you are using Quoted as your CRM system, this tab here is where you can actually go to where all your contacts are stored. We actually have something called an advanced search where I can pull people turning 65, kind of like what Matt chatted on, start marketing to my Medicare clients as well. But the cool thing about Quota is I can just click here and type in a name, click search. It's going to search your whole database for all the Kens or whatever name you put in there. And boom, here's me. So I can click on my name here. And on one page, you're going to have all your information stored for this client. So not only the primaries, you're going to have the spouse's information, census information of all the family members, their ages. We're going to let you manage policies, not just the policies that are on today, but what you sold them last year or the year before. All your notes that you put in are going to be time-stamped here for you. We're going to store reminders, proposal history, email history as well. So when the autoresponder actually sends out an email to a client, all that information is logged here, including the time that they've clicked on the email. Application history. Every time somebody clicks the buy now button, when you send out a quote, we're going to send you an email and log all that information here. And of course, we're going to let you upload attachments as well. And the really nice thing about Quota is when you are trying to quote a family, you can come up here to the big orange button, click new proposal, and it's going to come up with all the family members and what you want to quote. So for an example, my oldest daughter is 26. I don't want to quote the whole family. I just want to quote her. I can now quote her several different products at the same time. And click show plans. And Quota's actually going to generate all the plans available for that individual only, where you can actually send a beautiful proposal for the health exchange, dental, and vision. You can add your plans that you want to add to the cart. And no rhyme or reason what plans I'm picking. But now you can actually create a proposal and email this proposal to a client where they can actually enroll straight through the email that you sent them. Here's the proposal, cross-selling, and then, of course, the checkout will let her physically apply electronically from an email that you sent, and you're notified every step of the way. So you guys, time is kind of out. We're kind of out of time, but definitely I want you guys to reach out to either customer service if you're a current client, reach out to the sales department if you're not, and schedule one-on-one demos so we can show you how the product is truly going to help you out.
Matt, big virtual round of applause for Ken. Thank you very much for taking